Good evening. I'm Pizza Topping. In the year 50 AC, decades of tensions between the growing pizza empires boiled over, sparking the conflict that would change the pizza world forever. Tonight, we are talking about the Great Triad Pizza War. The Great Triad Pizza War would ravage the United States, taking the lives of 50 million soldiers and civilians, now known as the Sauced Generation. But how did this brutal conflict begin? Long before fighting ever broke out, the Triad powers were growing. From the Midwest, Domino's had spread across the country, conquering all the way to the West Coast. Also in the Midwest, Little Caesars expanded from Detroit, creating a large sphere of influence in the Northeast. Finally, in the South, Pizza Hut had compounded its power, controlling all the territory from the east to the border with California. In the late 40s, both Domino's and Pizza Hut began to encroach on the independent pizza powers of the Northeast. On June 21st, 50 AC, the two powers signed the Treaty of the Virginias, splitting West Virginia and Virginia between the two powers. It also forbid any further encroachment. Little did they know, this treaty would not last the summer. In early August, both of the powers secretly invaded Maryland, which was neutral Sbarro territory.
At first, when we entered Maryland, we didn't think we were invading. It was a secret even to us. When we were finally told to fight, we thought we were fighting a Sbarro's resistant movement. Little did we know that we were going up against the strongest pizza empire in the United States. What the is this about?
In early September, they realized who they were fighting and attempted to prevent the coming war. Peace agreements failed, and on September 23rd, 50 AC, war was declared between Pizza Hut and Domino's. Moving quickly, each side bolstered their ranks, Domino's allying with California Pizza Kitchen and Pizza Hut allying with Chuck E. Cheese's. Sbarro's called for aid from the other independent territories, and a conference between all unallied powers led to the creation of the Northeastern Midwestern Confederated Territories, led by Little Caesars. It also included Sbarro's, Papa Gino's, Subway, and Pizzeria Regina. The Confederated Territories were forced to retreat from Maryland and Pennsylvania, but regrouped in New York. On November 6th, as Domino's soldiers advanced to the base of Pepperoni Hill, Confederated Territory soldiers charged down the hill into Domino's lines. Domino's quickly struck back, but the territories held the hill, and the Domino's 8th Army broke itself on the territory's lines. Pizza Hut attacked from the south, and Domino's Eastern Army was destroyed. The Battle of Pepperoni Hill was a Territories and Pizza Hut victory.
The sauce was everywhere. Mozzarella sticks flying. Soda rained down from the heavens, washing away our positions. It was chaos, but I was so lucky. My division was ordered to retreat, and I managed to fall back to West Virginia before the entire army was destroyed. So many friends that were lost.
Soon after, Domino's would strike back, attacking Pizza Hut all along their border in the central United States. This attack began the long Battle of the Central Trenches, which would last almost the entire war. Over the course of the 3-year war, lots of territory changed hands, but many of these takeovers were very temporary and the conquerors had little control over their conquered territory. However, one thing did not change: the difficulty of being a soldier. From the central trenches to the beaches of the Hawaiian Pizza Division, who allied with Pizza Hut later in the war, soldiers worked tirelessly, dragging various weapons from place to place, fortifying positions against enemies and carrying out dangerous operations behind enemy lines. A typical soldier carried the simple olive rifle or a peat spear, while some specialized soldiers may be trained to use a mozzarella stick launchers, soft drink artillery, operate pie planes, and place calzone mines on the battlefield. Another type of warfare used was the submarine, an underwater vessel perfected by the city-state of Subway.
I carried a standard issue olive rifle, and it saved my life dozens of times. One of the most terrifying of these was when I was ordered to charge the opposing trench about 100 feet away. I ran over the top of that trench, and I see a Domino soldier pointing a mozzarella stick launcher right at me. He fired it, but I ducked back into the trench at the last moment and barely survived. I climbed back out of the trench, my ears ringing from the blast, and from the steaming, cheesy crater left by the mozzarella stick, I fired an olive right into the eye of that soldier carrying the launcher. The Domino's defense was so disrupted that we were able to overrun that section of trenches.
I still remember the back-breaking effort it took to lug around that big Pepsi artillery bottle. But when it was all shook up and we fired it down on the Little Caesar's troops, it was all worth it. That thing was a killing machine, and a right beautiful one at that. I could watch the fountain of soda blasting out of that thing all day.
As the war raged across the U.S., home life changed as well. With the men off on the battlefield, many women left the kitchen and entered the kitchen. They were no longer cooking up a calzone for their family. They were cooking up a calzone mine for the enemy. These new opportunities laid the groundwork for the women's rights movement.
With my husband, Private Mark A. Rita, out on the battlefield, I had to work to make ends meet. Of course, my husband sent back money in the mail, but the majority of our salary came from my job. I hung up my apron at home and put on my apron to build pie planes for the Confederated Territories. With my fellow mothers and women with me, we felt a sense of empowerment and togetherness, something that would last long after the final bomb dropped.
And dropped they did. On July 10th, 52 AC, Pizza Hut tested the first stuffed crust bomb, a bomb which harnessed the energy released when an atom of cheese was split, causing a chain reaction within a crust. The bomb was developed under the name Manhattan Project by Pizza Hut scientist Dr. Pepperoni, famous for inventing the specialized Dr. Pepper soft drink artillery at the onset of the war.
I was just messing around with some pizza dough and some cheese, and decided to put the cheese in the crust. And I just thought, what would happen if I shot a cylindrical plug of cheese into a sphere of active material inside the crust and simultaneously used the tamper to trigger fission reaction, and boom! The project was born. It was literally a boom. I almost died.
In September, Domino's began working on their own bomb after intercepting Pizza Hut blueprints. However, they were too slow, and on October 1st, 52 AC, the first stuffed crust bomb was dropped on the Domino's trenches. It revolutionized warfare, and both Domino's and the territories raced to build their own. After all three Triad powers had developed bombs, the Battle of the Central Trenches was effectively over, as every army retreated from their trenches, and a once highly contested area was left a steaming, decimated, empty wasteland of cheese. Soon they moved on to bombing cities in retaliation, and quickly the situation was out of hand, with millions of civilians dying. In May 53 AC, the Triad powers met for peace in neutral Alaska, but could never determine fair terms. While the leaders of the Triad powers argued in Alaska, a young revolutionary was released from a prison camp in Indiana. His name was Papa John, and he quickly rallied a following of soldiers who no longer sought an imperialistic victory, but a quick and simple end to the suffering.
We just thought, why does this senseless violence keep continuing on? We decided to gather resistance and try to unite all of the nation together. We tried to not kill those who didn't need to die, and we convinced as many people to surrender and join us as possible. It worked much better than we thought it would, and in only one summer, I went from a Pizza Hut soldier stuck in a prisoner of war camp to the second highest ranking military official in the entire United States.
With an army of veterans from Domino's, Pizza Hut, and Little Caesars united under one banner, and with the Triad leadership off in Alaska, Papa John's quickly defeated Little Caesars. With their main ally gone, the Northeast quickly fell. Recruiting soldiers from across the territories, Papa John led his armies through Pizza Hut territory. In some places, they encountered pockets of resistance, but often the exhausted and starving Pizza Hut soldiers surrendered and readily joined Papa John's army. In the course of one summer, Papa John conquered all of the United States, with the last pocket of resistance, the Domino's stronghold in Seattle, Washington, finally relenting on September 17, 53 AC. In the end, Papa John's would become the ruling empire of the United States. Papa John himself would be elected the first president and would serve 3 terms, dying during his 4th. The exiled governments of the Triads, based in Alaska, attempted to retake their territory in invasions in 55 AC, 58 AC, and one final time in 60 AC, before Papa John's invaded Alaska and toppled the Triad governments once and for all. After the war, the country was ravaged, and tens of millions left homeless and unemployed. Papa John's policies helped the country regain its economic footing, but it could never regain the people lost. 50 million people had died, 1/4 of the entire population, 23.5 million of these being civilian deaths. You know, I can come back to this if you want.
No, that's okay. Both of my brothers died fighting for Subway. My husband died fighting for Pizzeria Regina. We would walk out onto the street, and the only men you would see were old men, young boys, and cripples. It was really hard for us, but it helped further the women's rights movement. So, casualties don't matter.
It would be half a century before the population bounced back, and those lost would be forever remembered as the Sauced Generation. In its completion, the Great Triad Pizza War shaped the pizza world we know today, and who knows where we would be without it. I'm Pizza Topping, and this has been the Century America's Slice. Thank you, and have a good night.
You idiot. The TV! Dude, he made a hole. Hold on.
No, come back.
And simultaneously tamper a trigger fission. Boom! That's how the project was
Of the nation together. We're not. You want like Jada to do it? Jada's good at this.
No, it's alright, Charlie. I believe in you.
Hey.
You might not believe in you, but I believe in you. How do you have to make that much noise in literally like 4 seconds?
There goes.
It also included Sbarro's, Papa Gino's, Subway, and Pizzeria Regina.
Action.
Over the course of the 3-year war, lots of territory changed hand. Alright, I already messed up.
Year of the war.
Actually, I can sit back down. His name was Papa John, and he quickly started a resistance. I forgot.
Rolling.